She fooled the entire Silicon Valley with a black turtleneck and intense blue eyes. Then one day, the FBI put cold steel handcuffs around her thin, pale wrists. This is the shocking true story of one woman named Elizabeth Holmes. She was born in February of 1984 in Washington, D.C., United States. Her family came from old American elite wealth with very famous ancestors. Her great-great-grandfather founded a massive hospital and a huge Virginia bakery, but that old family fortune had mostly disappeared by the time she was born. Her father worked at Enron, her mother worked as a government congressional staffer. When Elizabeth was young, the whole family moved down to sunny Houston, Texas. Her parents told her she was destined for something truly great in life. At only 9 years old, she wrote a letter stating her future ambition. She wrote that she wanted to become a real billionaire when she grew up. Not a princess, not a doctor, not a teacher, a powerful self-made billionaire. She was extremely driven and obsessive from the very earliest years of her childhood. She taught herself to read Mandarin Chinese as a young teenage girl at home. At 18, she was admitted into the prestigious Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. She studied chemical engineering with the single goal of changing the entire world. She had a deep personal fear of needles from her early difficult childhood years. That single fear would soon become the spark of her enormous billion-dollar idea. What if one tiny drop of blood could diagnose every single possible human disease? No big needle, no painful tubes, no long hospital waits ever again for anyone. She brought the ambitious idea to her Stanford engineering professors for their feedback. Most of them told her that her very strange idea was simply not possible. But one older professor named Channing Robertson quietly believed in her brilliant young mind. In 2003, at only 19 years old, she dropped out of Stanford. She used her entire college tuition money to start her ambitious new blood company. She named the revolutionary new company Theranos, a mix of therapy and diagnosis. Her very first investors were her parents, her family, and close personal friends. Tim Draper, Larry Ellison, and other huge Silicon Valley names soon followed behind. She raised millions of dollars on a single promise of a new medical revolution. They called her the next Steve Jobs of the exploding biotechnology industry in America. She started wearing only black turtlenecks, just like Steve Jobs did every day. She dropped her natural voice down into a deep, unusually low, male-sounding tone. She rarely ever blinked when she was on camera. Her blue eyes burned intensely. Every small detail of her entire public image was now carefully designed and controlled. In 2009, a man named Sunny Balwani joined her Theranos company. Sunny was nearly 20 years older than her and secretly also her lover. Together, they ran the fast-growing company with heavy secrecy, total control, and fear. Employees had to sign extremely aggressive contracts, stopping them from ever speaking publicly. Different teams inside the company were not allowed to talk to each other. Elizabeth promoted a bold, powerful vision of changing healthcare for every human on Earth. Her tiny magic blood analyzer was called the Edison after the famous inventor. She claimed it could run hundreds of different medical tests from one drop. She gave passionate TED Talks and spoke on huge stages all over the world. Investors, reporters, politicians, they were all completely hypnotized by her and her vision. By 2014, Theranos had quietly reached an insane $9 billion valuation. Elizabeth was now officially worth around $4.5 billion herself. She became the youngest self-made female billionaire in the entire history of America. Forbes and Fortune magazines put her smiling face on their glossy front covers. Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people on Earth. She signed a huge partnership deal with pharmacy giant Walgreens to open blood centers. Theranos wellness centers started opening inside Walgreens stores across Arizona and California. Real patients were now getting real medical results from her secret black box device. Her powerful board of directors was a true who is who of American power. Henry Kissinger, James Mattis, George Shultz, 4-star generals, 2 former secretaries of state. Not one single person on that famous board had any real medical experience. Joe Biden personally visited her gleaming white Theranos office and loudly praised her work. Bill Clinton sat next to her on massive stages and called her truly inspiring. Rupert Murdoch personally invested over $125 million in her. She looked completely unstoppable, a young goddess of innovation at the very top. But deep inside her shining Theranos building, one extremely dark secret was hidden. Her magic blood testing machines did not actually work the way she publicly claimed. The Edison device could only run a few tests and often gave wrong results. Secretly, Theranos was running all the patient blood samples on something else entirely. They used large standard Siemens machines bought from the regular commercial medical market. The same exact machines any normal hospital or lab was already using every day. Real patients were getting wrong blood results for cancer, HIV, and early pregnancy tests. Some people received truly terrifying results that were completely and utterly false and wrong. Inside the company, the young engineers knew something was very seriously wrong here. Anyone who dared to ask real questions was quickly pushed out by Sonny Balwani. A brilliant young engineer named Tyler Schultz also worked inside the company. He was the grandson of board member and former Secretary George Schultz himself. Young Tyler saw the truth clearly, and he quietly decided to become a whistleblower. He contacted a hungry reporter at the Wall Street Journal named John Carreyrou. John Carreyrou quietly started investigating Theranos for many long, dangerous, and difficult months. Elizabeth sent her expensive army of lawyers to try and crush him completely. They threatened her former employees, whistleblowers, and their entire terrified young families directly. But John Carreyrou did not back down from her at all. He kept digging. In October of 2015, his explosive Wall Street Journal article finally dropped publicly. The headline exposed that Theranos blood testing technology simply did not work at all. The whole world was instantly shocked. The house of cards began rapidly falling apart. Federal regulators quickly moved in and started several serious investigations of her company operation. Walgreens immediately shut down every single one of its Theranos blood testing centers nationwide. Her massive $9 billion valuation collapsed down to absolutely zero in months. In 2018, she was officially charged with massive criminal fraud by prosecutors. She faced up to 20 long years inside of a hard federal American prison. But she was not done fighting yet. She prepared for a long legal battle. While awaiting trial, she quietly married a young hotel heir named Billy Evans. They had a first child together and then a second child before her trial. Her long federal fraud trial finally began in the fall of 2021. She took the stand herself and tried to blame her partner Sonny Balwani completely. In January 2022, the jury found her guilty of serious investor fraud. The judge sentenced her to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. In May of 2023, she walked into the federal prison in Texas. She is still locked inside that prison today, scheduled for release in the future. Elizabeth Holmes, the woman who sold a dream the whole world wanted to believe.